Hey and welcome to MTG CubeTube. My name is Sjoerd, and though this channel is usually about cube design, in this video I'm going to explain how a specific combo works, one that you might encounter in Cube, involving Parallax Wave, Leonin Relic-Warder and Oblivion Ring. These cards form a loop that you can repeat as often as you like with two possible benefits: permanently exiling all your opponent's creatures and re-triggering any beneficial Enter the Battlefield effects as often as you want. First, let's take a look at Parallax Wave, because it's such a weird card. It comes into play with 5 fate counters on it, and at the beginning of your upkeep you remove one of them unless there are none left, and then you have to sacrifice Parallax Wave. Whenever Parallax Wave leaves the battlefield, so this is either when you sacrifice it on upkeep or when it gets destroyed, exiled, bounced, etc., all creatures exiled with it return to the battlefield. You can remove one of those fate counters at instant speed to exile any creature. In this example board state, we just cast a fresh Parallax Wave and we remove counters to exile 3 of our opponent's creatures and then 2 of our own. Then in our next upkeep we have to sacrifice Parallax Wave and all 5 creatures come back. And we draw cards and gain life from the Enters the Battlefield effects of our Cloudblazer and Wall of Omens. All 3 cards in this loop have an effect that exiles another permanent and an effect that returns the exiled permanent to the battlefield. These days, many cards with similar effects have them written as one single line: exile something something until the card leaves the battlefield. Banishing Light, for example, doesn't have a separate clause for when it leaves the battlefield, like Oblivion Ring does. For this loop, it's only important that Parallax Wave has a separate leaves the battlefield effect that returns the card's exile with it. But let's quickly have a look how having this effect written as 2 separate effects can matter in normal gameplay as well, since this also comes up with other combos involving Oblivion Ring and Leonin Relic-Warder, and it might help to understand the part where we use this loop to permanently exile our opponent's creatures. Imagine our opponent has a Wormcoil engine and we cast a Leonin Relic-Warder, exiling the Wormcoil. Our opponent can then kill the Relic-Warder to get their Wormcoil back. If we had our own removal spell though, we could exile the Wormcoil forever by placing the exile effect on the stack, and before it resolves, kill our own 2/2. This would place the leaves the battlefield trigger on top of the stack, and when it resolves, the Wormcoil hasn't been exiled yet, so there is nothing to return to play. After that, the Enters the Battlefield effect resolves and the Wormcoil is exiled forever. So now let's get to the actual loop. The starting point is to have a Parallax Wave in play with at least 1 fate counter left on it, and a Leonin Relic-Warder that exiled an Oblivion Ring. It doesn't matter how we got to this position, but we could have cast Parallax Wave on turn 4, and then on turn 5 played a 5th land, and then Oblivion Ring targeting some other card, and then we played Relic-Warder on our Oblivion Ring. From this point, we can remove a counter from Parallax Wave, exiling the Relic-Warder. This will free up the Oblivion Ring that will exile the Parallax Wave. This will return the Relic-Warder to play, that can exile the Oblivion Ring, and we're back at our starting point. Let's do that again. So we remove a counter from Parallax Wave to exile Relic-Warder. This resolves. Oblivion Ring comes back into play, and we target Parallax Wave with the ETB effect. This resolves too, and Parallax Wave gets exiled. This returns the Relic-Warder to play, and with its ETB effect we target Oblivion Ring, exiling it, giving us back a fresh Parallax Wave. And we're back at the start. So this is the main loop. With this loop we can do 2 beneficial things: re-trigger our own ETB effects and exile our opponent's creatures forever. Let's look at the simplest one first. Here we are back in our starting position, but we also have a Cloudblazer in play. We can now exile the Cloudblazer and then exile the Relic-Warder and go through the same steps as before. When we get back to the starting position, the Enters the Battlefield of Cloudblazer will have drawn us 2 cards and gained us 2 life. And we can repeat this as often as we like. Cards like Charming Prince and Kitchen Finks let us gain infinite life this way. With Mulldrifter and Llanowar Visionary we can draw as many cards as we like, and Cauldron Familiar and Murderous Redcap let us just kill our opponent outright. We can also use this loop to exile all our opponent's creatures without them ever coming back, by making smart use of the stack and of the fact that Parallax Wave has a separate leaves the battlefield effect. When you do this on Magic Online, you want to keep control so that abilities don't automatically resolve. Let's say we have this board state with the same starting position as before, and our opponent has 3 annoying creatures. First we use Parallax Wave to exile our opponent's guys. Urza, Wormcoil Engine and the Scarab Gods. We place all 3 abilities on the stack one after another, but we don't let them resolve yet. We then also place the ability to exile our Leonin Relic-Warder on the stack, and that one we do let resolve. So this exiles our Relic-Warder and returns Oblivion Ring to play. With O-Ring's ETB effect we exile Parallax Wave again, and we let that resolve as well. Now the Leaves the Battlefield effect of Parallax Wave goes on the stack, and it returns only the Leonin Relic-Warder because Urza, Wormcoil and Scarab God are still on the battlefield, they haven't been exiled yet. When Relic-Warder enters the battlefield, it exiles Oblivion Ring again, and that returns the Parallax Wave to the battlefield with 5 fresh fate counters on it. Then we finally resolve the 3 exile effects that have been on the stack all this time, exiling the Scarab God, Wormcoil Engine and finally Urza. These will never come back because the Parallax Wave that exiled them does not exist anymore, because the game rules recognize the Parallax Wave in play now as a new one, and not as the one that exiled those 3 creatures. And that's all there is to it. I decided to make this video because I heard Cube streamers talk about this loop and it took me a while to see how it actually works and to understand how it can be used to your benefit. After I finally got to the bottom of it, I thought this knowledge might be useful to others and decided to make a quick video on it. Please let me know in the comments if I should make more of this kind of content, especially if you have examples of actual things that need explaining. Of course, also feel free to like and subscribe to support this channel. Thanks a lot for watching.